think?
You are looking at a pinpoint of light some 41 kilometers away from the International Space Station. That is the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft with NASA astronaut Don Pettit and Roscosmos cosmonauts Alexey Ovchinin and Ivan Vagner on board. Countdown clocks ticking backward to the deorbit firing of the Soyuz engine, a braking maneuver 26.5 minutes from now to begin the final leg of their journey home and the end to a 220-day mission aboard the International Outpost. Good evening from Mission Control in Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room as we are in the final broadcast of the evening, the homecoming for these three crew members who spent 220 days on the station, ending a mission of 3,520 orbits of the Earth that has spanned 93.3 million statute miles. Landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan for Pettit, Ovchinin, and Vagner is scheduled at 8:20 and 44 seconds p.m. Central Time, which is 6:20 and 44 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning, April 20th, Easter Sunday, Don Pettit's 70th birthday. Everything has gone extremely well as we have proceeded down the deorbit checklists and all of the timelines that has set up the Soyuz MS-26 for the engine firing that is coming up now 25.5 minutes from now. That will be a 4-minute, 41-second braking maneuver to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its 54-minute ride back to the steppe of Kazakhstan, where the trio on board the Soyuz descent module will be greeted by the Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces, including the NASA embedded team that is going to be en route to the landing site a short time from now in a variety of Russian Mi-8 helicopters. Here in Mission Control, Flight Director Garrett Hahn is on orbit at this hour. He's joined on console by spacecraft communicator Luca Parmitano, a veteran of Soyuz missions to the International Space Station. They are working in concert with the flight control team at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow. You see a view from a balcony camera overlooking the large flight control room as they are in communications with the Soyuz crew, as they will be during the bulk of the descent back to the landing site. Communications will be handed off at some point to a fixed-wing Antonov 26 aircraft that will be flying around the perimeter of the landing site, relaying both voice communications and data back to the control center there in Korolyov for the Russian flight controllers to assess. We'll be going through all of the timeline activities here in a moment. First, a quick look at the departing crew that is just a little bit away from its deorbit burn and entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. Alexey Ovchinin, the veteran Soyuz commander, in the center seat of the descent module, flanked to his left by Ivan Vagner and to his right by NASA flight engineer Don Pettit. Pettit will have logged 220 days in space at the time of his landing, a total of 590 days in space on his 4 space flights. Alexey Ovchinin, with 220 days in space on this mission, will have totaled 595 days in space on his 4 flights, and Ivan Vagner, completing his 2nd space flight to the International Space Station, will have totaled 416 days in space on his pair of excursions to the International Outpost. Several hours ago, just before 2 p.m. Central Time, the 3 departing crew members, Ovchinin, Pettit, and Vagner, clad in their blue undergarments, said farewell to the counterparts who are remaining aboard the International Space Station before they closed the hatch, first on the Rassvet module side of the docking interface, and then the Soyuz hatch on the other side of the docking interface to begin a series of leak checks and systems checks that was the precursor to the donning of their Sokol launch and entry suits that they're clad in the descent module of the Soyuz. You see on the right side of your screen Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi, who took over command of the International Space Station on Friday from Alexey Ovchinin. Onishi will remain commander of the station until his return to Earth with the Crew 10 crew later this year. The hatch to the Soyuz vehicle swung closed at 1:52 p.m. Central Time, 2:52 p.m. Eastern Time, to set into motion all of the systems checks that ultimately resulted in the undocking of the Soyuz from the International Space Station. With all of those systems checks having been completed, the hooks to the Soyuz that held it in place to the Rassvet module opened, and at 4:57 and 37 seconds p.m. Central Time, 5:57 and 37 seconds p.m. Eastern Time, the Soyuz pushed away from the Rassvet module, with physical separation occurring as the station and Soyuz flew 260 miles over southern Mongolia. There were a couple of separation burns that increased the velocity for the Soyuz's departure from the vicinity of the International Space Station, putting it now some 41 kilometers away from the station for the deorbit burn that is scheduled to occur just over 20 minutes from now. Again, looking at a replay of the departure of the Soyuz vehicle from the International Space Station, you see in the field of view the Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft that arrived on April 8th with NASA astronaut Johnny Kim and Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexey Zubritsky parking in the parking place right next door to the Soyuz that has just departed, the MS-26. Upcoming in about 18.5 minutes, the deorbit burn, again a 4-minute, 41-second retrograde firing of the Soyuz engine to allow it to drop out of orbit for its descent back into the atmosphere. 23 minutes after the deorbit burn, there will be the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz vehicle, the crew remaining, of course, in the center section, the descent module, with its heat shield repelling the heat that will build up to some 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit around the spacecraft. Once the vehicle has entered through the atmosphere, a drogue chute will be deployed and in turn will pull out the main parachute, that large orange and white parachute that you're familiar seeing on our broadcasts of previous Soyuz landings. That drag chute will slow the descent rate of the Soyuz down considerably, and then just a moment before touchdown, soft landing engines will fire to soften the impact on the ground, and the Soyuz crew will be home. The interesting part about the parachutes, the 2 pilot parachutes are first deployed, the second of which extracts the drogue chute. That drogue chute, once released, measures 24 square meters, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. The main parachute is then released, a huge chute covering an area of some 1,000 meters, slowing the Soyuz to a descent rate of just over 7 meters per second. Its harnesses first allow the Soyuz to descend at an angle, a canted angle, of some 30 degrees to expel heat, then shifts the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent. Once again, that pinpoint of light you're seeing is the Soyuz MS-26. We are inside 17 minutes until the deorbit burn. Just to give you some time hacks coming up on events to come, the deorbit burn again scheduled at 7:27 and 7 seconds p.m. Central Time, 8:27 and 7 seconds p.m. Eastern Time, 4 minute 41 second engine firing to act as a braking maneuver to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second. 23 minutes after the deorbit burn, at 7:55 p.m., rounding it off, we should see the separation of the three sections of the Soyuz, as we just mentioned earlier in the animation. 3 minutes after the module separation, the vehicle will enter the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 326,800 feet. The crew on board will feel the first sensation of Earth's gravity in 220 days at that point. And about 1:30 after entry interface, as it is called, the vehicle will enter into the plasma regime, basically a big fireball that is generated around the vehicle, with the heat being repelled by the Soyuz heat shield. That plasma regime that the vehicle will be in is about 5 minutes in duration. We do expect a blackout period in communications until the vehicle descends past that period of peak heating and moves into a area in a lower regime in the atmosphere. Once the vehicle exits the plasma regime, we should see maximum G loads building up on the crew, some 4 to 5 Gs, at an altitude of 21 miles above the Earth. The command to begin the opening of the chutes that we just described should occur at 8:06 and 28 seconds p.m. Central Time, 9:06 and 28 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. The landing itself is scheduled at 8:20 and 44 seconds p.m. Central, 9:20 and 44 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. That will be 6:20 and 44 seconds a.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan, some 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Kazakhstan. The current coordinates predicted by the ballistics folks at the Russian Mission Control Center call for the landing to occur at 47 degrees 19 minutes north latitude, 69 degrees and 34 minutes east longitude. The landing to occur 56 minutes after sunrise at the landing site. The weather at the landing site is good, some 44 degrees Fahrenheit in temperature, just a few clouds overhead, some partly cloudy skies throughout the course of the overnight hours at the landing site. Hopefully we will have good visibility as the Soyuz descends under its main parachute. There are a number of Russian Mi-8 helicopters in play as part of the search and recovery forces, 8 helicopters in all, 2 of which are stationed at the ballistic staging site well to the southwest of the primary landing site. Those 2 Russian Mi-8 helicopters are at the Kryani airport near the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the launch site for Soyuz vehicles. They would come into play in the unlikely event that the Soyuz moved into a ballistic entry that would create a shortfall in their intended landing target, which is to the southeast of the town of Kazakhstan. There will be a half a dozen Russian Mi-8 helicopters in play for the prime landing site, including NASA personnel. Those personnel took off from Karaganda earlier tonight. They are either en route to the landing site or have landed at the interim staging city of Kazakhstan and will be taking off at the time of the deorbit burn, which is about 12.5 minutes from now. Those helicopters will arrive at the landing site in tandem, forming a circular racetrack pattern around the landing site. Communications between Soyuz and a fixed-wing aircraft, the Antonov 26, will be in play to relay data and voice to the Russian Mission Control Flight Control Team in Korolyov outside of Moscow. Once the Soyuz lands, those Russian Mi-8 helicopters will land in rapid-fire succession in a sequential fashion. so that the recovery process of safing the vehicle and extracting the crew can be accomplished. The crew will be placed in 3 chairs, if you will, for an opportunity for the 3 crew members to begin to get their land legs back as they